Just keeps dropping out. Oh, we're back. We got some people here. Lower resolution. I did lower the resolution. I lowered it to SD. Well, here we go. All right. Maybe she comes back. You know, Angela's our sister. We'd love to hear her story. So it looks like I'm going to be hitting the road tomorrow. And I'll put a post up. But we're going to be back on track come Monday at the latest Tuesday. And go to a place that has excellent internet. And we'll just have to, you know, do it. So I don't know if she's going to come back, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I hope you can hear me. Everybody, just remember to go easy on yourself and go easy on each other, because we're all going through the same thing. It's a very personal trip, but not to take anything personal, because if we're taking something personal, if we're being offended, if we're carrying a grudge, that's on us and ain't on nobody else. And that's just my truth. And people can disagree with me all they want. Holly Caddy, I saw your email, and I will be answering you. So, and anyone else, the emails are just kind of backed up right now in the messages. So, I don't know. We can try somebody else coming in to test it. I don't know if she's going to have the patience to come back and try again. Robert Evans, you got the link. You want to try it, and we'll test it again. I don't think it's going to work for the long run here. It just keeps dropping out. But if you want to come in and see if we can play a little bit longer, we'll play. So let's test it. Let's do... oh, here she is. Hang on. Let's see. Here we go. She's back. Okay, let's try it one more time. So you have found that you have some type of origination from Inner Earth.
Yes.
Can you give us?
Yes.
And share with us.
Probably.
Huh? Go ahead.
I'd be probably one of the first ones that got out.
That got out of the Inner Earth?
That came out, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how to explain it better, but how do I even say this? It's like, after I did the divorce thing, the next thing on my list was to stop. I had the spinal injury for 15 years, and I was going off of all medication. I had been on medication for it of like the highest amounts you could possibly imagine for like, I don't even know, like 15 years. It was ridiculous. And as I went off of this, first off, I healed my spine 100%. When I let go of this stuff, how do I even say this? I found out through a Santero video. She narrated like my whole entire everything I walked, like in her videos. It's almost like comical.
Wow.
Yeah, from the moon disappears forward, she's narrated majority of my story without even realizing. I've never met this woman. I don't know her. I've watched her videos for like, I don't know, like 2 years maybe.
Who is she?
Just my signs. Santero.
Santero. Okay.
Yeah. So she narrated it, but basically while I was going off of these meds, my psychic stuff turned on, and I realized I was able to perceive that I had been stuck in a mirror, like a magician's mirror box in Inner Earth for pretty much my whole life without realizing it. And that it was like when I would interact with other people, it was almost like the mirror was, how do I even say this? keeping me still, basically, keeping me from interacting with people. It was keeping me silent. It was keeping me down. It was keeping me stuck, basically. And my guidance since waking up to, that I was psychic and wanting to learn this stuff, my abilities worked all my life, but like they were working against me instead of for me majority of my life. So like I don't know, I'd say time is funny for me, but earlier in my process, I'd say like 10 years ago, if I had to guess, I started like actually learning how to not have my abilities working against me, making them work more for me,
Mm-hmm.
And what they had taught me to do, being so sensitive, because my field was like uber sensitive to everything. It was like I would see everything crawly on everyone everywhere, and it was like madness. And hearing people's thoughts, and like it was usually all the negative stuff, and like just it was no fun. It was very traumatic in a lot of ways, and because everybody around me wasn't that way, and so it was kind of hard to navigate, especially having to keep it all inside. But what they had taught me to do, my team, I guess you call them, is to not react to these things anymore. Like they had me get glasses, the black ones that I was wearing for so long, that were like slightly off to where you couldn't see detail very well, but you could see enough to like function and drive, or you know what I mean. But like that helped quite a bit. Just little things like that they would teach me. I didn't know it at the time, but they'd practiced with me to stop having the outside affect the inside.
Okay.
For a very long time, like to where I would be in situations with, like, say you're in a gas station and like the crawliest person comes in, and like just me standing next to this person was almost too much,
right.
And it would bother me. And like I got to the point where they would test me again and again and again in all these funny ways that like didn't make sense then, but hindsight makes sense now. That to not react to it, to stay neutral, to stay in balance. Okay, and so as I was going off of these meds, I was shown that there was like 40,000 years of trauma that I was releasing.
Wow.
Of pain and suffering and stuckness. And it showed that the archetype of my archetype and an Aries archetype, ARES,
right,
Aries, had been stuck in this loop, which is the archetype of my ex-husband, of both parties being innocent on both sides and something playing in between.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And being stuck dealing with each other, both thinking the other one's trying to pull the wool over their eyes when they're not.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh my, okay. And so when I figured this out, I was like, both of us just get out of this. You know what I mean? And when I did that, it opened the door for me to do this next part, which was I needed another Aries archetype to do this first off, and that was Alexander Mazzone played this part for me, like as a friend, and I thank him dearly for this. How do I say this? Remind me to go back to my inner child archetype after this, okay?
Okay.
So, I went again. I had to go onto the moon one more time during this process and take a bow and say, I'm not playing anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. And when I did this, I know all this sounds just so ridiculous, but
No, it
like
doesn't.
this
You're
was
with
my
all the
life.
ridiculous
Like,
and crazy people. What are you talking about? These are the
oh my
same
God.
experiences we're having, just different ways.
Yeah,
Not
I
sounding
never
crazy
thought
at all.
mine would be this, but so what happened was, um, due to all the cool stuff that I had learned from hanging out at Galactic Tarot and the magical people, let's say, that I don't even know. They're the coolest. They're masters, if you ask me. A bunch of them over there, master magicians. Uh, which I was kind of there because like those kind of people had I had to work on being around those kind of people because they triggered me some. So like that's one of the reasons I was there. Um, okay, back to the thing. So like I said, Santara was narrating my story and my experience in a lot of ways. She didn't realize it, but she was, and like I was living the experience and then watching her video that said my experience afterwards. So like I wasn't like watching her video and then going and doing it.
Right.
But she did do a post where she was like, you got to go back on the moon one more time and take a bow. And my guidance says that's you. You got to do that. And I was like, what is this even about? Trying to figure all this stuff out, and like I was going off the stuff I had decided to do it where was it, Easter this year, and I knew about a week in advance. And what's funny is my field, my other dimensional versions were already flushing the experience through my field before I had even quit on my end. It had already began.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like as I went and did all this, everything they had taught me about not flinching and not reacting to what I walked through or what I whatever came in my field that felt yucky, let's say, came in really handy. And basically I had to walk through 40,000 years of traumatic experience without flinching. And what happened is it broke. I used the trap that they had me in that broke my spine. I literally used everything they had set up to keep me contained to break their machine, break the box. Basically, I glitched it and got out.
So
basically.
would you say that yeah, there is 42 people in the house. How did you know that? Would you say that you transformed the external material, be it etheric or literal or physical or non-physical, you describe as their devices or their technology? Would you say that you utilized that same material and transformed it as you transformed yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
And everybody that was still in it, I left them all a way out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it was like, it showed me afterwards that like other family members of mine are still in it.
Okay.
Not my family, this family that I, not my children, not my husband, not
right.
Like the people I grew up with.
Right.
Does that make sense?
The people in the inner
They're
earth.
still in it.
Okay.
Yes, they're still in there.
They're
yes.
still in it?
And it was like, oh yeah. Big time.
Do you think at some level they have accessibility to the code you created to get out of there? To get out
Absolutely.
themselves?
That was one of my conditions, of leaving. It
Now,
showed me like a childhood memory. How do I say this?
Inner earth?
Or first off, I'll come back to that. The child part that I was trying to tell you about.
Mm-hmm.
So before all of this, when I was doing the moon mission, I had to go off and do something by myself right afterwards. again, I was watching one of Santero's videos, and like it showed me. Well, she pulled up a card of like, how do I say this? I can't even remember what card it was now, because the me that I am now is not the me that I was when I undid all these things. I lost a lot of it when I shifted. When I healed my spine, I ended up getting a whole new nervous system upgrade. It was like I got plugged into my divine self, my source self, my victory self, my roots basically of everywhere I had come from. And prior to all of this happening, I had to gather back a piece of myself that was a trophy on somebody's wall.
Wow.
My inner child piece. My most like 1-year-old innocent brand new me this lifetime. And in grabbing that back, I was shown that I was like a beacon for where the earth goes. I don't even know how to explain this. Like it's so funky. That when somebody else had control over this piece of mine, it was like keeping the world the way that it was. It was keeping certain people down and certain people up.
Okay.
And keeping, does that make sense?
Yeah, it was like a piece in the infrastructure, and then once you pulled yourself out of it and created the code to pull yourself out of it, it's altered the landscape or the infrastructure, right?
Right.
Do you have any idea? Go ahead.
So I had been working at Galactic Tarot for a really long time, and I was Sagittarius and Capricorn, and I was doing like my work over and over again, and I had kind of built these me's that would handle stuff for myself or for humanity or for the collective, I guess, for the highest good of all always. And it's when they showed me when I got my piece back, there wasn't very much life to it. She was just a shell of a person. There was just the tiniest little spark of light even still in this little victory piece, child piece. And when I got this back, I was shown a memory of my childhood where I was walking with my brother for the first time. I was like less than 1. I remember I was barely old enough to even like walk without tripping, and like it was the farthest we'd ever went. We were always playing in the woods together, me and my older brother. He was 3 years older than me. And he had taken me. I had just followed him. I remember like I was like looking down, watching my steps really well, and wasn't really paying attention to where we were going. And when I looked up, we were like way in the middle of nowhere, and I had no idea where we were, and it kind of freaked me out for a second, but he was there, so I felt okay. He was like, hold on a second, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm gonna go in the bushes here for a second. I'll be right back. And this is like one of my earliest memories. I have a couple earlier ones, but this is like the first one where we were ever off by ourselves. And this was the first psychic memory that I have. And it was, I remember I didn't watch where he went, and he like went into some bushes, and I remember looking around, and I'm like, whoa, like I don't even know which direction he is, and what it, you know, like it kind of freaked me out. And I remember a portal opening, and like all the plants like coming in closer to me and like being like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like it kind of freaked me out. Like my psychic abilities were on even as that young. And this portal opened, and I remember this woman was standing there, and she was like, shh, 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 like it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And she had somebody behind her, and I remember seeing like a Pegasus behind that even, and like I knew there was more behind that, but they had like a really loving feel to them. They had a really positive feel to them. They had a like compassion and caring, and so I like listened to them, and I blanked out. I don't remember what exactly transpired right there until I was older. Now I know, but I'll come back to it. And then I remember something else. They left, and I remember turning back around and my brother coming out of the bushes, and he's like, "What, are you scared?" And I'm like, "No." And I remember being a little like off put a little bit, and then energetically again there was like another being come at me, not in like a mean way, but just in I could feel him in my presence. I couldn't see this one, but I could feel it, and I it took something that day. That was the piece that I got that was mounted on somebody's wall.
Wow.
Was that piece right there. So what it showed me was my Sagittarius Capricorn self was the one that did time magic, that came back in the portal, that I was the lady.
You were the lady.
That I was the me now, like the me that went through that experience, was the one that went back and took that. I took my own piece. Does that make sense? And
she
kept
came
it
back. She
safe.
came back and retrieved the piece in that episode.
It's like I took the piece before they could take the piece. They took the wrong piece. Does that make sense?
Right. So
they thought they had the piece, but I had it.
Right.
And when I got this new piece back, that's what flushed the 40,000 years of trauma. It's almost like I took the snowball that would have created the avalanche, and I said, how about no to your avalanche, and kept the snowball and went my own way. And it said like I had reset my whole everything by doing so.
Do you feel like that that who you were telling no to was, does it feel like it was you, or an aspects of you, or actually something that was
saying no to? What do you mean by that?
Like when you said I'm going to say no to that. I'm going to say no to the avalanche because I'm going to grab this snowball. Was that, do you feel like
yes
that it was
no.
Do you feel like it was something intrusive that was violating you in some way?
I was under the impression, now there's two ways I could look at this, and I'm always like leaning more towards I did this to learn my own power and abilities and strength, and to be able to like wield them without harm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But there's also another way that it could be looked at, but I honestly, I don't know.
And I don't know that any of us really know. We can say we know, but we don't really know. All we really know is we're present right here.
Yeah, the more you learn.
Yeah.
The more you learn, the more it changes, you know, everything.
But I mean, you know, the stories, the way it all unfolds for each of us are interesting, and it's not just about, oh wow, that's interesting, but it's also there's code. Like I can just see it in the field now from you telling your story, from some of the comments and otherwise.
What are they saying? I can't see them.
That's courageous to me.
Thank you.
Choice and awareness to stand in the highest trajectory. Sovereign state reclaiming. Peace was upgraded. I feel the authenticity to this wonderful share. Thank you. Yeah. So, like,
cool.
My question is, and I don't want to get caught up too deep in it, but I'm just curious, your recollections of the inner earth scenario, were you a physical being? Do you feel like you were a physical being? And if so, were you humanoid? And were those that were involved with the fuckery, were they the same species as you or the same type of being as you?
Okay, I don't know how much you know about the archetype work, but the more I learned about it, the more my life made sense. Like, in a lot of ways. And I started seeing that I have archetypes everywhere. Like, I have Titans and Olympians everywhere. And my older brother ended up being Zeus. My mother, River Styx. I don't know if you know very much. That's the river that connects the living to the dead.
Right.
My neighbors were Hades, Poseidon, and I don't know, was there another one? I'm trying to think. I don't know, like they're everywhere. It's ridiculous.
Do you feel like, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer because we're all trying to find our way. Do you feel like that that you carry, or me or whoever, do we carry every single archetype, or do we originate from one and then are exposed to the others in our journeys?
See, I asked Mazone this too. I was like, how many victories have you seen? And he says, not a one. So that makes me wonder right there. I think it depends on the person. Like, check out, I don't even know, like, I wouldn't have found mine if I wouldn't have been dealing with Mazone. Like, when he first told me what my archetype felt like to him, he studied it like a whole bunch, and I barely knew any of it. And when he said it, I was just like, oh, that's nice. And I just like didn't really think anything of it. I didn't think I'd be embodying it in like 6 months. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have any inclination to even look that direction. I feel like a lot of the traumas in the world occurred from these archetypal connections. And when you look at your situation from your archetypal situation and you look at like what archetype did I have trauma with, or what archetype did I clash with, and you look at the people around you that you're clashing with or having traumas with, they're usually one and the same. And I feel like there's ways to like fix these things, you know, to like heal them at that level. And I feel like it makes things better here somehow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, anything we're doing is affecting everything, no doubt.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe you said, and I chuckled, not because I'm making fun of you, I'm not, because you said we're affected by, you say, a particular archetype or two, and I'm thinking, I'm laughing
not
because,
always.
Well, I'm just saying to myself, which one am I not affected by? Which one of one of the you know the myriad of archetypes have I not been has not become distorted, because everything has become proportionately,
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
So in term, like, this is all very recent for you, right? This is like the last few months.
Very.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts based on your individual experience that you're sharing with us? What are your thoughts on where we're at now? Because there's a lot of talk about heart expansion. There's a lot of talk about clean slate. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's significant amount of people, and I'm speaking strictly metaphorically. You know, some people may think it's more literal, and that's fine too, but just to keep it, you know, where we don't get caught up in semantics and you know, airtight definitions.
Right.
So based on your individual journey of the last few months, and you know, people coming in and talking about solar flash again, 3 days of darkness, getting to a point where those who have been on, let's just say, one side of the Great Divide reach the tipping point and the 100th monkey, and all those that were asleep, so to speak, are not awakened by whoever's got the balls to say someone's not awake. but those people, you get what I'm saying,
They're all
that
awake.
everybody snap,
Yeah.
everybody comes to the same level at the same time. It doesn't mean that they don't have work to do. It just means that the truth has hit a certain collective level. So everything that you've experienced the last few months, where do you think we are collectively? What's your feel for it? I mean, I know there's no right or wrong. It's not a prophecy, but just in terms of your own feeling, your own intuitiveness, how do you think we're doing? What do you think's going on this summer? You know, where are we at?
From what I've been shown is like, I think we're already on New Earth.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's already here. I think we're already in it. We just aren't realizing it. I went to a funeral not too far back, like a month or two ago. I'm so bad at time. I so live out of time, like all the time for years on end. So like time to me is wonky. But a little bit back, I went to a funeral of a couple close friends of John's. And I've only met these people like 2 or 3 times, and really enjoyed them every time. Well, their 16-year-old daughter got in a car wreck and didn't make it. And so we had to go to her funeral. When I went to her funeral, I found out that her parents were Oceanus and Tethys.
What is that?
Bear with me.
Okay.
Another archetype. They're my grandparents, basically.
Really?
Yes, of like archetypal grandparents, right?
Oh, thank you.
And I end up going to their funeral more. I was there more supporting my guy, and didn't even realize like I had anything to do with these people whatsoever, right? So as I'm at their funeral, I'm walking around, and as I had embodied more of my victory self, I was able to see the matrix, let's say, better. Okay? And so I'm always doing grid work nonstop. Like if my source inside says we got to handle something here, like I listen, I follow through, I do it. What it showed me was I had untangled. I had to untangle some stuff that was connected to Oceanus and Tethys that was keeping them kind of stuck, which hence had to do with their daughter passing.
Yeah.
And when I came back to here where I live, it showed me how to untangle, how do I say this? There was like hunters, an Indian, and there was one more. White people, I guess. There was like a thing tied together that was keeping them stuck. And the natives of this place are the ones that showed me this. They were like showing me all the places where the matrix, let's say, was like playing a middle role where
I got you.
giving all sides a chance to get along or not get along, and had a choice.
To get along or not get along? That's what the
Well, yeah, because it's always a choice.
right. That's what the
And it was like they were upholding this level that everybody thought it was the other party upholding. Does that make sense? But none of them were.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, so if that's the case, it was like, in order to untangle this, I had to go hiking in the mountains by myself with absolutely no fear, because old me was like, cute girls don't go in the woods by themselves. God only knows who's up there. You know, you don't go out without bear spray. You don't go out without a knife. You don't go out without a gun. You don't go out, without telling people where you're going. You don't go out without, you know what I mean? Like all these things, like a girl by herself, your vehicle could get stuck. You could get whatever, like the list could go on. I had to drop every single one of those to undo this matrix, let's say.
When was this?
And this was like, I don't know, like around the month or two ago, maybe.
So you went up the mountain without bear spray, without a gun or a knife. You went just by yourself, knowing that's what you had to do.
Brought no food, brought no defense.
Okay.
No anything. That I didn't even tell anybody where I was going. Like, that's not my normal,
Right.
Everybody always knows where I'm at. But I didn't realize how much these things were restricting me from experiencing something different right here where I'm at every day.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, because you.
And when I took all these things off and I let them all go and I surrendered, I got to experience inner earth here and now like you ain't never seen.
Say it again.
I got to experience like the inner earth, what's underneath, what new earth, however you want to say it.
Okay. So as you were walking up the mountain, essentially you took all your walls down. Anything that I'm just putting it in human terms, but like anything you felt like was protecting you, you removed it.
Yeah.
And in that situation, because you had removed it all, your field was actually bigger and your senses were broader. As a result, a lot like, I got to remove shadow so I can fill it with light. So you removed these necessities that we have, these illusionary things that we think are going to protect us from what, because we're eternal souls. Well, why would we even need it? But so you did it in order to initiate yourself to a higher level of awareness and higher sensitivities. Very cool.
Yeah. I had to do that to untie the matrix part that was holding this region at each other's throats, let's say. So
now you put the pressure on me, because I've been feeling the same thing. I sat with 2 bears last night. And
nice.
I was sitting on the steps of this little RV at my friend's place over here. And one came in and I watched their story. It was weird. I watched their story and I can't remember what it was. But it was, and so it was like this little story about this bear, and I can't remember what happened, but so he got scared or something, and it was really weird, because whenever I've had experience with bears before, it's like they're, you feel the power and the diversity of their abilities, and this time the bear came and sat down and he was vulnerable. And then we sat there together and watched another bear, a smaller bear, because this one was like 7 feet tall. The other one I think would have been like 4.5 feet tall. And just a different species of bear. And we kind of watched his little story. And I forget what happened there, but it was a story again of vulnerability or fear, no different than like a human. And then he came and sat with us, and we just sat there. It was trippy. But as that was happening, and as I accepted it, I didn't resist it at all. I just kind of watched it, and as I was sitting there and my bare feet